Hi everyone. Before you drift off, let me know in the comments where you're listening from. If you're enjoying the stories, don't forget to like and subscribe. Now let's relax and jump into tonight's case. Story 1. The private life of French President Emmanuel Macron has long intrigued the public, not just because of his powerful position, but due to the swirling rumors surrounding his marriage to First Lady Brigitte Macron. Speculation abounds that Brigitte might be transgender, born under a different identity before transitioning into the persona we see today. But the whispers don't stop there. An even more explosive rumor claims that Emmanuel Macron is bisexual, and their marriage serves as a mere facade, masking an ambiguous relationship with Alexander Benalla, a former security aide at the Élysée Palace. These rumors aren't new. They've been festering for years, gaining traction especially since Macron's election as president of France in 2017. Across forums, personal blogs, and even YouTube channels dedicated to exposing the truth, the tale of France's presidential couple has fueled endless debate. Are these merely political conspiracy theories crafted to undermine the leader of the land of wine? Or could there be evidence suggesting these rumors aren't entirely baseless? In today's video, we'll dive deep into each accusation, trace the origins of these whispers, and, most crucially, uncover the truth behind this polarizing marriage. You're watching True Crime in the World, where we explore the most puzzling cases and most gripping stories. As usual, before we begin unraveling today's mystery, please leave us a like and subscribe to support the channel. Thank you so much. Brigitte Macron, France's First Lady, was born on April 13, 1953, in Amiens, a city in northern France. The youngest of 7 siblings, she hails from the Trognu family, a wealthy lineage renowned locally for its chocolate-making empire. Raised in privilege, Brigitte enjoyed a comfortable upbringing, a solid education, and a childhood largely free of upheaval. Amiens, her hometown, is a historic city steeped in old-world charm, famed for its European architecture, most notably the Notre Dame Cathedral, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's also the birthplace and childhood home of Emmanuel Macron, the future president. Brigitte attended Catholic girls' schools before pursuing higher education in Paris. She graduated from university and embarked on a career as a literature teacher and drama instructor. Throughout her teaching tenure, she earned praise from students and colleagues alike for her innovative approach, open-mindedness, and unwavering dedication to her pupils. Her early years passed quietly until she married André Louis Sauzier, a financial expert, with whom she had 3 children. Their marriage unfolded steadily for nearly 2 decades, until she met Emmanuel Macron, a student whose arrival would upend her life entirely. In the early 1990s at Providence High School, Emmanuel Macron stood out as the brightest student in his class, excelling not only in academics but also in writing, poetry, and acting with remarkable finesse. It was Brigitte, his teacher, who first spotted and nurtured his talents. She frequently praised him, especially when they collaborated on scripting and rehearsing a play together. Those sessions became a pretext for the two to spend more time in each other's company. Writing brought us closer, we crafted theater scripts together, and little by little, I found myself utterly captivated by his intelligence, France's First Lady later revealed. Macron's family soon sensed that this bond transcended the typical teacher-student dynamic. His mother even mistook his affection for a crush on Brigitte's daughter. But the truth was far more startling. When the unusual connection came to light, the Macron family reacted with fierce opposition. Françoise, his mother, confronted Brigitte Trognier saying, "Don't you see? You already have your own life. But my son won't have children with you." His father, Jean-Michel Macron, recalled that he nearly fell out of his chair upon learning of his son's relationship with his teacher. They repeatedly contacted the school principal, demanding intervention. When their efforts failed, Françoise met Brigitte directly, pleading, "Please leave my son alone. Let him focus on his studies until he's grown." But Brigitte's response left everyone stunned. "I can't promise anything." The affair didn't just stir ripples in the school. It became the talk of Amiens. No one could fathom why a 40-year-old woman, settled in a stable family, could fall so deeply for a teenage boy. For Andre Louis Ozier, Bridget's husband, the revelation hit like a thunderbolt. Grappling with mounting rumors and his wife's deteriorating demeanor, he chose to walk away, severing ties, abandoning his career, and even leaving all his assets to his wife and children. As for Emmanuel Macron, after graduating from Providence, he moved to Paris to attend the prestigious Lycée Henri IV. Throughout that time, his devotion never wavered. For over 15 years, he held fast to a vow. "We'll meet again and I'll marry you." Not until 2006, when Bridget's marriage to her first husband officially dissolved, did Macron return to wed Bridget Trogneau in the town of Le Touquet. He was 30. She was 54, already a mother of 3. Together, they decided against having children. France's youngest ever president explained that, beyond the age gap, he'd resolved early on not to have biological kids. He already stepped into the role of father to 3 and grandfather to 7 through his wife's family. "I don't feel the need to have more," he said. "When he decided to marry our mother, he came to us first to break the news. That took guts. Not everyone could do it. Emmanuel wanted to be sure we, his soon-to-be stepchildren, would accept him." Tiffaine Ozier, Bridget's eldest daughter, later shared publicly, "This marriage has become one of France's most polarizing love stories, a tale that inspires narratives of love defying all odds. Yet its stark disparities have also birthed a torrent of conspiracy theories. Among them, the most staggering claim, Bridget Macron is secretly transgender. The rumor that France's First Lady might be transgender erupted in late 2021, sparked by an article in Fisa Document, a French magazine known for peddling conspiracy theories. Journalist Natasha Ray claimed a 3-year investigation uncovered anomalies in Bridget Macron's personal records. According to Ray, no documents definitively prove the First Lady's existence from childhood, and she alleged that the Trogneau family genealogy lacks clear evidence of Bridget's identity. This fueled suspicions that she might actually be Jean-Michel Trogneau, a man who mysteriously vanished in the late 1970s. The story exploded across social media, particularly on Twitter and YouTube. Conspiracy enthusiasts rallied, piecing together evidence to bolster their case, comparing old photos, dissecting Bridget's voice and gestures, and even questioning the origins of her 3 children. Facing the rumor's wildfire spread, Bridget Macron refused to stay silent. In December 2021, she filed a lawsuit against the individuals and entities spreading these falsehoods, targeting Natasha Ray and the platforms, amplifying the baseless tale. Her legal team argued that these accusations not only tarnished the First Lady's honor, but also damaged the Macron family's reputation. They suggested the misinformation might be part of a political smear campaign aimed at undermining President Emmanuel Macron ahead of elections. After the lawsuit, Natasha Ray doubled down in a 4-hour interview with a YouTuber, staunchly defending her claims, yet offering no verifiable proof. Despite this, the rumor about Bridget Macron continued to fester, especially among anti-government circles, far-right extremists, and conspiracy believers. The theory gained traction when Bridget's lawsuit faltered. According to RT, a Paris judge dismissed her case against 2 women who claimed on YouTube that the First Lady was her own transgender brother. The judge ruled that Bridget Macron had sued for public defamation rather than privacy invasion or image rights violations. Though her loss stemmed from illegal technicality, it only deepened public conviction that the circulating theories might hold truth. Amid the gossip about his wife's gender, Emmanuel Macron erupted in frustration. "The worst thing is the misinformation and fabricated scenarios. People believe what they want and harass you, even over the most private matters. This saga underscores the perilous reach of online misinformation, especially for high-profile or politically prominent figures. It's hardly the first time politicians and their spouses have been targeted by unfounded allegations." Alongside whispers that the First Lady is transgender, France's president has faced his own persistent rumors that he's bisexual, possibly entangled in romantic liaisons with men during his political ascent. Though no concrete evidence has surfaced, these speculations have simmered for years, intensifying since he took office in 2017. Specifically, during his presidential campaign, political rivals hinted at a romantic link between Macron and Alexander Benalla, a former Élysée Palace security aide. Benalla, once a senior bodyguard, shared an unusually close bond with the president. What stands out is that Alexander Benalla was no ordinary security officer. He enjoyed unprecedented favor from Macron, gaining access to restricted zones within the presidential palace, driving official vehicles, holding diplomatic passports, and residing in a lavish apartment just steps from the Eiffel Tower. Even after Benalla was caught physically confronting protesters, Macron allowed him to remain in his dual role as bodyguard and deputy chief of staff at the Élysée Palace, sidestepping criminal law by not reporting the incident to the police. More shockingly, several French newspapers alleged that Benalla had been privy to the nation's nuclear codes, a claim that sent ripples through the media. French outlets pointed to their near-constant proximity during Benalla's tenure at the Élysée. Their closeness extended beyond work. Reports detailed shared vacations, skiing together in the Pyrenees, and cycling side by side along the coast near Macron's retreat in Le Touquet. The Telegraph captured Macron's defense during a July 26, 2018 hearing. As the rumors swelled beyond containment, the president's office had no choice but to dismiss him. Soon after, Benalla was arrested, charged with assault and impersonating a police officer. Equally striking, some French publications suggested Macron shared a similar bond with Mathieu Gallet, the former CEO of Radio France. At the time, Gallet was a towering figure in media circles, reportedly basking in special favor from the president. In 2018, Gallet's abrupt dismissal from Radio France followed a corruption conviction. Yet, Frédéric Mitterrand, a former culture minister, argued that the firing was less about graft and more a strategic move to smother rumors of a romantic entanglement between Macron and Gallet, an attempt to quell public unrest over the whispers. The speculation encircling France's youngest president gained new life when the Paris 2024 Olympic opening ceremony ignited fierce controversy. Beyond critiques of its ludicrous and religiously offensive performances, rumors swirled that the show's approval stemmed from Macron's supposed homosexuality, claims bolstered by assertions that he'd gushed over the rehearsal. These threads wove a narrative that captivated skeptics and amplified the intrigue surrounding his personal life. Together, these incidents fueled a growing belief that Macron might be bisexual, his marriage to Brigitte a meticulously crafted shield to safeguard his public persona. Facing this barrage of rumors, Macron struck back publicly, offering only that he's a casualty of a covert political scheme to bring him down. Yet Macron's forceful rebuttals have failed to extinguish the doubts. The public's fascination with the private lives of the powerful endures, especially for a figure as commanding as Emmanuel Macron, whose every move invites scrutiny and suspicion. Throughout France's political history, strategic marriages have hardly been rare. Unions where politicians wed not solely for love, but to shield their personal lives, mask private truths, or bolster their public standing. The choice of France's president to marry a woman 24 years his senior, waiting for her over 15 long years, a narrative almost unheard of among political couples, only deepens the skepticism. It begs the question, is this a genuine love story? A rare bond between two kindred spirits defying convention? Or is it a meticulously crafted facade, a perfect disguise to quiet the persistent rumors about Macron's true sexuality? Though these speculations remain unproven, in the murky waters of politics, truth and public persona often diverge sharply. Whether this president's marriage is a fated romance or a calculated maneuver, it will undoubtedly fuel debate for years to come. Perhaps only those at its heart, Emmanuel and Brigitte Macron, truly hold the answers, locked away behind the walls of power and privacy. Thank you for joining us for today's video. Does the relationship between France's most powerful man and this extraordinary woman strike you as a real-life fairy tale? How do the swirling rumors about their private lives sit with you? Are they rooted in reality, or merely political ploys from rival factions aiming to sway public opinion? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Story 2. On December 8, 2023, a judge at the British Columbia Supreme Court in Canada declared Ibrahim Ali guilty of first-degree murder in the killing of Marissa Shen, Chinese name Shin Xiaoyu, a girl of Chinese descent. He was sentenced to life imprisonment with no chance of parole for 25 years. The ruling brought a measure of solace to many. After all, the trial, which stretched over an agonizingly long period, had finally concluded. Yet it was a belated justice. 6 years had passed, a torturous wait for the victim's family and those who believed in fairness. Had Marissa lived, she would now be a 22-year-old young woman. This case, even with justice served, leaves an indelible ache in the heart. You're watching True Crime in the World, where we explore the most puzzling cases and most gripping stories. As usual, before we begin unraveling today's mystery, please leave us a like and subscribe to support the channel. Thank you so much. The story began with a disappearance in 2017. On the night of July 18th, just after 11 p.m., a distraught mother walked into the Burnaby City Police Station in British Columbia, Canada, to report her missing daughter. She explained that after returning home from a long day of work, she discovered her 13-year-old daughter, Marissa Shun, was gone. The girl's phone was off despite repeated calls. Initially, police brushed it off. Teenagers that age often hang out with friends, their phones die, or they switch them off deliberately. They might play until exhausted, spend their pocket change, and wander back home. But the mother's anxiety was palpable. She insisted Marita never stayed out past 8 p.m. Her desperate pleas convinced the police to trace the last GPS signal from the girl's phone. The data pointed to Central Burnaby Park, logged about an hour earlier. The park, not far from their home, was a known nighttime hangout for teens, reinforcing the police's hunch that Marissa was simply out with friends. Still, the mother's unease persisted, and she demanded they search the park with her. 2 officers, skeptical of anything serious, reluctantly agreed to accompany her. By then, it was nearing midnight. Armed with flashlights, the trio scoured the park repeatedly, but found no trace of the girl. The police urged the mother to go home and wait for updates. Less than an hour later, a patrolling officer in the park's southeast corner spotted a small pink owl-shaped wallet and a powered-off phone near a narrow path. A meter away lay a white card. Picking it up, the officer realized it was a student ID bearing the name Marissa Shin. He immediately alerted superiors. A dispatcher entered Shin into the system, pulling up the mother's missing person report from 2 hours prior. Only then did the police take the matter seriously, mobilizing forces to Central Park and calling in a rescue team to assist. At 1:10 a.m., police found Marissa lifeless, mere dozens of meters from where her belongings lay. Forensics estimated her death occurred around 3 hours earlier, roughly 10 p.m. that night. On that stifling summer evening, her life halted forever at 13. Never to see the school year begin in September, her mother bore the deepest anguish. After realizing Marissa was missing, she'd made nearly 40 calls. At the funeral in early August, she wept until she could no longer stand, stroking her daughter's face in the coffin as she had each morning to gently wake her, clinging to a futile hope of rousing her once more. The mother and daughter had arrived in Canada just a year earlier, relying on each other. To secure better schooling for Marissa as she entered high school, the mother juggled multiple jobs, often returning home late. Marissa was a well-behaved, sensible girl. During summer break, she attended morning classes, then walked home to cook. Afternoons were spent indoors, playing on her phone, crafting, or occasionally visiting a nearby cafe for free Wi-Fi. Wherever she went, she always returned before dark. Police pulled security footage from the apartment complex where Marissa lived and the area around Central Park, the crime scene. They zeroed in on the window from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. Cameras captured her leaving the apartment around 6 p.m., heading to a nearby Tim Hortons. She bought a snack, sipped a drink, and used her phone, appearing relaxed. After about an hour and a half, she left. At the door, she tidied her trash and courteously held it open for an elderly patron entering. 7:40 p.m. To make it home by 8 p.m., the quickest route was through Central Burnaby Park, but this path lay beyond the reach of security cameras. Satellite imagery revealed a narrow trail shrouded by dense trees, unlit by streetlights, and rarely traveled at it was the final stretch of Marissa's brief life. Hours later, her body was found at the spot marked in red on the map, right in the middle of that secluded path. What happened between the moment contact was lost and the tragic end? Initially, police released no specifics, but a forensic report later presented in court painted a grim picture. Marissa's shorts had been removed. Her genital area and vagina bore multiple tears of varying severity, and her death resulted from asphyxiation. It's harrowing to imagine the torment she endured in her final moments, an unbearable, desperate agony with no one to save her. The public reeled in outrage and fear. Young girls avoided venturing out alone at night, while parents of daughters took leave from work to ferry their children to school. Many even canceled summer extracurriculars. Under immense societal pressure, the police still had no breakthroughs. That desolate path lacked surveillance cameras, and by nightfall it saw virtually no foot traffic. With no witnesses, police questioned over 2,000 people, including nearby residents, but unearthed no valuable leads. The crime scene, strewn with gravel and fallen leaves, made intact footprints impossible to recover. No suspicious hairs, fingerprints, or fabric fibers turned up either. The sole link to the perpetrator was a semen sample containing DNA found in the victim's body. Yet, when cross-checked with criminal databases, it matched no one. Stymied, the police watched as the killer, after striking Marissa, seemed to vanish without a trace, refraining from further crimes. Beyond appealing to the public for tips, they gathered photos and videos from her funeral and memorial service. Criminal psychology suggests perpetrators might attend such events, reveling in perverse satisfaction. In this case, though, that theory yielded no significant progress. Over 90 suspects were flagged and cleared, as their DNA didn't match. A year neared its end, yet the true culprit remained elusive. In Burnaby, particularly within the Chinese community, warning posters sprouted everywhere, especially around Central Park, urging vigilance against a predator still at large. When word spread that the city hadn't installed park cameras, a group of Chinese youths and middle-aged residents formed a volunteer patrol. They cycled along the park's narrow paths daily, safeguarding women and children. Meanwhile, police pinned their hopes on an experimental technology, genetic phenotyping, or DNA-based facial reconstruction. Simply put, traits like hair color, height, ethnicity, gender, and even facial features are encoded in genes. By analyzing DNA, scientists could use computers to approximate a suspect's appearance, aiding the hunt. But, as we know, looks shift with environment, life experiences, and age. Both academia and the public harbored doubts, arguing the reconstruction's accuracy was too low. This method risked wrongful arrests and sparked concerns over privacy violations and law enforcement overreach. Despite over a decade of research, genetic phenotyping remained unendorsed and sidelined from mainstream criminal investigations. A startling breakthrough arrived in 2018. The infamous Golden State Killer was finally apprehended after 44 years on the run. When the DNA-generated portrait was compared to his actual face, the resemblance was striking. Aside from a rounder face due to age and a receding hairline, the facial contours, feature proportions, and even the nasolabial folds, those creases flanking the nose, matched with an 80% accuracy rate. Soon after, another case grabbed experts' attention. William Talbot, a fugitive since the 1980s, was captured around the same time. His DNA-reconstructed image aligned astonishingly well with his real appearance, save for weight gain and a thinning hairline, capturing details like facial features and skin tone with uncanny precision. These cases proved the technology's remarkable potential, reigniting hope for the Marissa Shun investigation in Burnaby. Since the DNA sample from her crime scene was less than a year old, the suspect's appearance wouldn't have shifted as dramatically as the older fugitives. This meant the accuracy of genetic phenotyping in her case could be significantly higher. Analysis pegged the suspect as 25 to 35 years old, with dark hair and eyebrows, light brown skin, a lean face, a long nose, and a distinctive cleft chin, often dubbed a dimpled chin. Crucially, the DNA also pinpointed an origin, the Middle East, specifically the northern region encompassing Syria, Lebanon, northern Turkey, and parts of Iraq. This narrowed the suspect pool considerably. To sidestep racial profiling backlash, Police withheld the DNA portrait from the public, sharing it only with select Middle Eastern communities and local organizations. They sought tips while urging young men matching the description to voluntarily submit DNA, not just to aid the case, but to clear their own names. The police knew the killer wouldn't willingly step forward. Still, they cast a wide net, banking on luck to snag a direct relative. Their gamble paid off. In August 2018, the lab analyzing the DNA reported a match among over 300 voluntary samples. Not a parent or sibling, but a relative within 3 generations. The news brought both elation and mild disappointment. Middle Eastern families are often sprawling, with one person potentially having over 20 paternal cousins and 40 maternal ones. Tracking each down could take an eternity. But then came electrifying news. The family tied to the matching sample had only one man fitting the DNA portrait's traits. It turned out this family had arrived in Canada as Syrian refugees just over a year earlier. Their lineage still compact, sparing police a sprawling manhunt. The sole suspect was Ibrahim Ali. From here, we'll simply call him Ali. Ali, 28 years old and single, worked as a facade construction worker for a building company. He had no prior criminal record. His rented apartment was less than 700 meters from Central Park, where Marissa met her tragic end. It didn't take much effort for police to obtain his DNA from household trash. Analysis confirmed it matched the sample found on Marissa's body perfectly. Armed with this irrefutable evidence, police arrested him on the spot at his worksite, charging him with first-degree murder. After 1 year and 2 months, the killer was finally caught. But no one anticipated that a legal nightmare spanning 5 years was just beginning. Initially, though mainstream media tried to downplay the suspect's refugee background, the case ignited a fierce public backlash. The root of the uproar traced back to widespread opposition against the Canadian government's policy of accepting 25,000 Syrian refugees. Many citizens had voiced concerns that it not only strained public finances, but also posed security risks. Yet at the time, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau had staunchly assured the public that the government could guarantee absolute safety. To bolster confidence, Canada publicized its refugee intake criteria, emphasizing family size and prioritizing women and children, while expecting adult men to remain in Syria to defend their homeland. So how did Ali, 28 in his prime, unmarried and childless, end up in Canada? As it turns out, Ali didn't arrive in Canada through the government-sponsored refugee program, but via a lesser-known route called private sponsorship. This method starkly differs from the official government intake process. Essentially, if a private group or individual commits to covering all living expenses, housing, settlement, healthcare, and food, the sponsored person can enter Canada as a refugee. This fast-track program bypasses requirements like gender, age, or family status. While it might seem like money alone can open the door, the reality is far more complex. Take, for instance, an average family of 4. Sponsorship costs range from $80,000 to $100,000 Canadian dollars per year, with a minimum commitment of 1 year. Despite the steep price, Canadians are renowned for their generosity and compassion. According to CBC reports, St. Andrew's Wesley United Church in Vancouver teamed up with residents of a small island called Burn Island to sponsor a 6-member Syrian refugee family. The choice hinged on a key detail. The family had a relative living on Burn Island, a church member. When the Syrian war erupted, this relative realized that government refugee channels meant long waits and fierce competition. Opting for private sponsorship, he seized a quicker shot at bringing them over. It's fair to say he excelled at rallying support. Before long, a heart-rending tale of a Syrian family ravaged by war, wandering in search of refuge, splashed across the front page of Burn Island's local paper. Accompanying photos of Syria's bomb-scarred landscapes tugged at readers' heartstrings. Stirring deep sympathy, donations flooded in. The church didn't sit idle either. With the pastor's simple plea, "The kin of our congregation are our family too. Giving to them is giving to God." Wallets opened wide. Thanks to this collective effort, they raised $650,000 Canadian dollars in short order. Beyond that, the sponsor secured a house on the island for the family, furnished it fully, rented a car, and enrolled the kids in school and daycare. Even minor details like airport pickups were meticulously arranged. With funds so abundant, the group calculated a surplus of $50,000 Canadian dollars after covering the six-member family's needs. The relative had a light bulb moment. He had a single younger brother back home. Why not use the extra cash to bring him over too? Housing, airfare, and even a green card, a golden opportunity handed on a platter. That lucky recipient was none other than Ali, the perpetrator in today's case. On March 2, 2017, all seven arrived in Canada. Greeting them at Vancouver International Airport were not just family, but also church representatives and Burn Island residents. They snapped a commemorative photo, and by the next day, it graced the front page of a local newspaper, hailed as a moving testament to Canada's humanitarian spirit. Yet, unlike his brother's family, who settled quietly on the island, Ali charted a different course. He tapped the donated funds to enroll in an English course in the bustling city of Burnaby, renting his own apartment. With housing, schooling, and a stipend secured, he landed a dream life, beyond the reach of many work-study international students. It all came too easily, and Ali soon spiraled into reckless indulgence. Within 4 months, unable to curb his urges, he preyed on a girl he'd just met, Marissa. What fueled public outrage even more was that, just 3 months before his arrest, Ali was invited back to Burn Island for a family reunion marking their 1-year anniversary in Canada. The event made the papers, touted as proof of successful integration. In the photo from that day, Ali looked calm and at ease, a stark contrast to the year prior. No one could have guessed that beneath that facade, he carried the weight of an innocent life. When the truth unraveled that this once celebrated inspirational figure of Canada was a killer, public fury erupted. Anger boiled over, with criticism aimed squarely at Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. You once beat your chest, promising that admitting masses of refugees wouldn't jeopardize social safety. So what do you have to say now? The question echoed from all corners, thrusting the Canadian government into a storm of backlash. Trudeau addressed the firestorm in an interview with Maclean's. Obviously, this is a profound shock to Marissa's family and friends, and a horrific tragedy. Any act that takes a life is terrifying, but I have faith in our legal system, and ultimately justice will deliver a fair outcome. At the same time, we're exploring measures to ensure everyone's safety. His words sounded polished, airtight even, yet left an impression of saying much while revealing little. First, Ali rejected the prosecution's offer. He turned down a plea deal for first-degree murder, adamantly pursuing a not guilty defense. To that end, he fired 5 lawyers in succession, hell-bent on finding a stubborn advocate who could secure an acquittal in court. The catch? Ali had no money for legal fees. Every lawyer defending him came through legal aid, free for him, but fully compensated by the government. Ultimately, taxpayers footed the bill. Legal firm data pegs a Canadian lawyer's base rate at $300 Canadian per hour, spiking higher in court. Each new lawyer meant re-reviewing the case from scratch, racking up fresh costs. Worse, incoming counsel could cite unfamiliarity or inadequate prep to delay proceedings. The legal tab for Ali alone ballooned to a staggering sum. Finding lawyers who can be hired with money proved easier than securing an interpreter for Ali. He claimed ignorance of English, French, and even Arabic, Syria's official language. His sole means of communication was Kurdish, a rare dialect he could only speak and hear, not read or write. How someone born in the late 90s like Ali remained entirely illiterate in a modern world baffled everyone. In Canada, certified Kurdish interpreters are scarce, and their fees exorbitant. Language barriers meant every lawyer-client discussion required an interpreter's presence, hinging on their availability. If one couldn't attend a hearing or trial, the entire process stalled. For lawyers and interpreters, prolonged delays fattened their paychecks. Meanwhile, Ali's pretrial detention accrued at a 1.5 multiplier toward his formal sentence. From his 2018 arrest to the 2023 trial, 5 years in custody equated to 7.5 years served. In a twisted way, jail time paid off for him. Throughout this drawn-out legal saga, Ali and his lawyers relentlessly sought delays, tangling the case further. Hearings were postponed time and again. Then the pandemic hit, grinding everything to a halt. It wasn't until April 2023 that the trial date was finally set, nearly 6 years since Morris's murder. On April 5, 2023, the trial opened at last. The 12-member jury included 6 Asian-origin individuals, with women slightly outnumbering men. Yet, this long-overdue reckoning faced fresh hurdles from the start. The trial's first snag hit when the interpreter tested positive for COVID-19, forcing a quarantine. Then, a juror's relative passed away, requiring them to return home for the funeral. Meanwhile, the defendant, Ali, kept stirring chaos, citing endless excuses to stall proceedings. He claimed that years in pretrial detention had triggered schizophrenia, plagued by auditory and visual hallucinations and crippling headaches. Doctors prescribed medication, but it muddled his memory and judgment, prompting him to request frequent health-related breaks and push back hearing dates. The trial limped along, interrupted for over 5 months. Then, a shocking bombshell struck outside the courtroom. Dr. Tracy Pickett, the 55-year-old forensic pathologist and key prosecution witness in Marissa's case, was found dead in a forest in the Southlands area, about 30 kilometers from Central Park, where Marissa was killed. Police investigated and ruled it a suicide. They concluded Dr. Tracy had battled depression for years, and testifying in Marissa's case had dredged up painful past memories, pushing her beyond her breaking point. This wasn't her first murder case, nor her last. Despite lingering questions, authorities deemed it a self-inflicted end. Seizing on the loss of this pivotal witness, Ali's defense lawyer pounced, demanding the jury be dismissed and the trial reopened, citing the absence of critical testimony. This time, his ploy failed. After careful deliberation, the judge opted to press on, striking Dr. Tracy's prior statements from the record. Files can be erased, but not the jurors' memories. Far from tilting the scales in Ali's favor, this eerie twist ignited a fiercer sense of justice among them, tipping the courtroom dynamics against the defendant. Sensing the tide turning, Ali's lawyer resorted to the most shameless tactic, smearing the victim. With Marissa unable to defend herself, he painted her as a rebellious teen, clashing with her mother, roaming the city, even sleeping on park benches. He pointed to her cashless wallet, hinting at financial desperation and shady money-making schemes. Brazenly, he fabricated a tale that she might have approached Ali, drawn by his youthful looks and willingly engaged with him. He argued that while Ali's actions might be morally dubious, he wasn't her killer. The real culprit remained at large. The defense's flimsy arguments and outright fabrications set the courtroom and public ablaze. Hundreds from the Chinese community took to the streets, protesting the trial's injustices and condemning the slander of the deceased. On social media, a tidal wave of outrage crashed over the defense lawyer, with many accusing him of trampling professional ethics for a win. Some extreme reactions began to surface, though those details will come later. Facing the defendant's tactics, the prosecutor struck back swiftly. He dismantled the defense's claims as distortions and cherry-picked half-truths. It's normal for a teenager to occasionally gripe to friends about strict parents, hardly a sign of estrangement. The clearest proof lay in Marissa's mother, making over 40 frantic calls after her disappearance. Her father and brother, undeterred by distance, traveled from China to attend the trial, steadfastly following each day's proceedings, united in their grief. Rumors of Marissa sleeping in parks or turning to illicit means for cash lacked any shred of evidence. Had she not intended to be home by 8 p.m., she wouldn't have cut through the park, where fate delivered her to Ali. The prosecutor dismantled the defense's narrative with a piercing question. If they bought the lawyer's story, that Ali merely slept with Marissa and left, only for a random predator to stumble upon her, vulnerable, and kill her, what were the odds of such an absurd chain of coincidences? He then asked the jury to hold their breath for 2 minutes, a span long enough to feel the choke of desperation. That's what Ali did to Marissa. From the moment he spotted her hurrying through the park to get home, she never stood a chance. The most chilling aspect of this case was that Ali never intended to leave a witness alive. Facing the prosecution's relentless onslaught, the defense lawyer made a desperate last stand. Just as the jury finished deliberating and prepared to announce their verdict, he stunned the court by claiming he'd received a death threat. He presented an anonymous letter slipped into his home mailbox, filled with menacing promises of a painful demise, not just for him, but his family too. Notably, the letter's phrasing and grammar bore the distinct imprint of English written by a Chinese speaker. The lawyer suggested it might stem from Marissa's supporters. Seizing the moment, he demanded the trial be voided, the jury's conclusion nullified, and proceedings postponed, arguing that external public pressure had tainted the jury's impartiality, undermining the case's fairness. The judge shot down this absurd request on the spot. He retorted that, if the lawyer felt threatened, he could turn left out of the courthouse and report it to police for investigation. But after months of hearings with Ali's fate all but sealed, how could a single anonymous letter unravel everything? Were the past 6 months to be wasted? Ultimately, the jury found Ali guilty of first-degree murder, sentencing him to life in prison with no parole for 25 years. Then came a bombshell. Police abruptly halted the sentencing, citing courtroom safety concerns. They had arrested a man present at the hearing, discovering a loaded gun on him. Though his identity wasn't disclosed, police hinted he was closely tied to the victim. Eyewitnesses at the scene, however, identified him as Marissa's middle-aged father. His intent for bringing the weapon remained unclear, but given the context, he likely targeted either the defendant or his lawyer. With Canada lacking the death penalty, this grieving father may have sought to deliver his own execution in court to avenge his daughter. This impulsive act veered the case into unpredictable territory. Ali's lawyer leapt at the chance, again citing threats to his life to push for a mistrial and file an appeal. Yet, in my view, facing an enraged, despairing father, the safest path might be pleading guilty and accepting the sentence. Recall what Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said about this case. Trust our legal system. It will deliver a just outcome. Perhaps that needs an addendum, and if the system falls short, someone will naturally find another way to make the guilty pay. Story 3. In late August, China buzzed with outrage over an incident where a BMW driver, veering into the wrong lane, collided with a cyclist, sparking a deadly scuffle. What stood out was the murder weapon, originally the BMW driver's own, a notorious gang leader who dropped it in the fray, only for the cyclist to pick it up and strike back. This might be one of the rare cases where the killer garnered such widespread support from netizens. You're watching True Crime in the World, where we explore the most puzzling cases and most gripping stories. As usual, before we begin unraveling today's mystery, please leave us a like and subscribe to support the channel. Thank you so much. At 9:30 p.m. on August 27, 2018, in Kunchen City, Jiangsu Province, China, a worker named Yu Haiming pedaled home along a quiet road after a grueling day at the convention center. As he neared the Jinchuan Road intersection, the traffic light turned red. He stopped in the bike lane beside a bus, just a few signals away from home. Suddenly, a BMW swerved right, nearly hitting him. Before Yu Haiming could catch his breath, the BMW barreled forward again, despite clearly seeing him. It slammed into his bicycle. Moments later, a young man in a white shirt emerged from the BMW's back seat to inspect the scene. After scrutinizing every detail, he noted only minor scratches on the car, nothing serious. Yet, this man in white raised his voice, demanding Yu Haiming cover the repair costs. A woman from the BMW's rear seat stepped out to mediate. At first, she helped Yu Haiming move his bike to the sidewalk. The light had turned green by then, and traffic resumed its flow. She started back toward the car, but the man in white abruptly approached Yu Haiming again. Alarmed, she trailed behind, ready to intervene if needed. The man in white spoke loudly, berating Yu Haiming, but refraining from physical aggression. The woman quickly tugged him back to the car. Irritated, Yu Haiming spoke up. "I was cycling in the right lane, waiting at a red light. Your BMW veered into the wrong lane, and now you're spouting nonsense. Still, I won't make a fuss. These days, the less trouble, the better." Yu Haiming wasn't keen on dragging this out. He just wanted to settle it and get home. But as the two passengers climbed back into the BMW, the driver suddenly burst out and charged straight at him. The man in the white shirt tried to intervene, but in that moment, no one could rein in the driver's unhinged outburst. Lu Hailong, self-proclaimed big brother of Kunchen, wasn't imposing in stature, but had a loud mouth and a knack for trouble, earning him few fans. He stormed forward, jabbing his finger at Yu Haiming, then shoved him hard and unleashed a barrage of kicks. Exhausted from a long workday, Yu Haiming faced an assailant, a tattooed gangster reeking of alcohol, who clearly outmatched his weary frame. Yu Haiming didn't fight back, which only emboldened Lu Hailong. His verbal abuse grew nastier. The man in white tried to de-escalate, but as tension spiked, the woman from the BMW stepped in to pull Lu back. She couldn't hold him. Pummeled beyond endurance, Yu Haiming finally shoved Lu away, an act that unleashed the mad dog within him. Lu Hailong dashed back to the BMW and grabbed a half-meter-long knife. Yu Haiming froze, stunned and immobile. Lu lunged, smashing the knife's spine against Yu's neck. Searing pain sent his mind reeling as he dodged frantically. In that instant, he thought he'd die under this lunatic's blade. A wild swing from Lu sent the knife flying, clattering onto the road. Yu Haiming saw his chance to strike back. Lu, sensing trouble, scrambled to reclaim his weapon. Both raced for it, but Yu got there first, snatching the long blade from the ground. The earlier beating had left Yu Haiming enraged and on edge. He knew if Lu regained the knife, he'd be finished. Gripping the blade, he stabbed Lu in the stomach, shoved him down, and slashed a few more times. Lu spun and fled. Yu gave chase, intent on striking again, but Lu stumbled far off and collapsed by the roadside. Fearing Lu might summon cronies, Yu Haiming rushed to the BMW, flung open the door, and seized Lu's phone. The scene unfolded near his workplace, and a coworker, witnessing it all by chance, called police as Yu began losing control. By then, Lu lay unconscious on the sidewalk, his skin pallid from massive blood loss, a gaping wound in his gut. Yu Haiming slumped by the curb. Calming down, his first move was to call his boss, requesting a day off. Tomorrow, he figured, he'd be in no shape to work. Police soon swarmed the scene, sealing it off as ambulance sirens pierced the night. Both men were rushed to the hospital. Lu's condition was dire: a deep chest gash, scraped elbow, and a devastating abdominal wound. Medics battled for over an hour, but couldn't save him. Lu Hailong never imagined that he'd bring the knife, and that it would claim his own life. After the incident, Yu Haiming was detained on suspicion of intentional injury. A surveillance video from the scene spread like wildfire online, igniting heated public debate. It was clear the BMW had broken traffic laws, starting the clash with arrogance before attacking the underdog. Netizens split into a fierce argument. Should the cyclist, now a killer, face charges? Many insisted he acted in justifiable self-defense, his life threatened by an aggressor. Others countered that, while self-defense was fair, chasing and driving the man to death crossed the line. The victim had tried to let it slide, but the thug drew a weapon, only to be spectacularly turned on. Most rallied behind Yu Haiming, cheering his actions. Digging into both men's pasts only cemented the view that Lu Hailong had it coming. Lu Hailong, born in 1982 in Jinyuan, Gansu Province, dropped out before finishing first grade and left home by 15. As an adult, he spent much of his life behind bars. In July 2001, a teenage Lu, fresh off the bus in Beijing, took a job. At 19, he landed a 4.5-year sentence for theft. Released in 2006, Lu left Beijing for Kunchen, diving into debt collection. There, the scrawny kid morphed into big brother Lu Hailong by 24. On September 7, 2006, he was detained 5 days after a brawl in Kunchen. By March 2007, the grueling debt chasing wore him down, so he pivoted to bribery and intimidation, landing him 9 months in jail. Over a year after his second release on May 11, 2009, he was back inside for 3 years, convicted of intentional property damage. On January 25, 2013, Lu Hailong clashed with someone over a petty dispute, stabbing them in the chest with a folding knife and causing a collapsed lung. On June 3rd that year, unhappy with the karaoke room options, he assaulted a waiter, breaking the man's nose. Both cases were tried together on May 13, 2014, landing Lu a 2-year, 2-month sentence. From the day he left home to fend for himself until his death at 36, Lu spent most of his life incarcerated. After his final release, he opened an unlicensed pawn shop in Conçues, dabbling in high-interest loans. Daily, Lu juggled lending and debt collection, blowing cash to unwind at notorious nightlife spots. When idle, he'd flaunt his tattoos and martial arts skills online, even bragging about his frequent prison stints, as if they were a badge of honor. On the day of the incident, Lu and his white-shirt friend had been drinking heavily. Pumped and eager for round 2, Lu, drunk, drove off with 2 women in tow, leading to the collision with Yu Haiming. Lu's life seemed flashy and affluent, but that was a facade. He owned nothing in Conçues, living in a rented 40-square-meter flat. The BMW he drove belonged to his girlfriend, bought on installment, and at the time of the incident, he was still grinding to pay it off. In stark contrast, Yu Haiming was an honest, earnest man. At 41, hailing from Ningxiang County, Shaanxi Province, he toiled diligently at the convention center near the crime scene. To colleagues and friends, Yu was kind-hearted, never quick to anger. He led by example at work, tackling the toughest tasks without hesitation, always ready to lend a hand rather than point fingers, a trait his boss prized highly. His married life, though, wasn't as fulfilling as others. Yu Haiming had wed twice and fathered 2 kids, including a 7- or 8-year-old daughter. His family grappled with dire finances, barely scraping by, debts piling up. His father passed away earlier that year, his bedridden mother ailing, yet Yu pressed on, working dawn to dusk under crushing responsibility. His 4-year-old phone, its screen shattered, went unreplaced. The year before the incident, his 13-year-old son was diagnosed with lung cancer, treatment costing over $40,000. Yu sought crowdfunding and donor help, but only raised $5,000. His wife worked far from home to supplement their income, leaving the couple little time together as they scrambled to make ends meet. 5 years apart, Lu Hailong and Yu Haiming were both outsiders chasing a living in the same city. Yet their paths couldn't have diverged more. One eked out an honest, grueling existence, laboring tirelessly without a day's rest. The other thrived on predatory loans and debt enforcement, reveling in martial arts, karaoke, dragon and phoenix tattoos, and late-night clubbing. Lu Hailong was dead. Yu Haiming sat in custody. Everyone wondered what verdict awaited Yu under such evidence. Post-incident, police interrogated him. He confessed that seeing the knife terrified him, especially after the blow to his neck left him helpless, certain his life hung in the balance. That's when he fought back, his self-defense spiraling out of control. Several witnesses came forward to police, recounting the entire incident they'd observed in detail. The BMW driver suddenly ran to his car and pulled out a knife. I saw a sharp object glinting in the dark. Then he swung it at the cyclist a few times, one said. On August 30th, for days after the clash, police interrogated Yu Haiming again, armed with the evidence they'd gathered. Facing the interrogation camera, Yu Haiming appeared with a shaved head. Learning Lu Hailong had died, he was gripped by fear and broke into sobs. He'd never imagined taking a life. By his own belief, harming someone meant paying with his own. By now, the question of Yu Haiming's fate had become a blazing hot topic online. Was his self-defense lawful, or had he gone too far? On September 1st, 2018, 5 days post-incident, Conçues police delivered their final verdict. Yu Haiming's actions were deemed legitimate self-defense. He faced no charges and was released. The court also laid out the grounds for his acquittal. First, Lu Hailong's conduct fell squarely under the legal definition of assault. He'd attacked Yu barehanded at first, then escalated with a knife, posing a grave threat to Yu's safety, classifying it as a clear act of violence. Second, after seizing the large knife, Yu stabbed Lu in the stomach once, then struck at least 4 more times as Liu tried to flee. Police explained Yu's pursuit and his grab for Liu's phone from the BMW as a bid to stop the man from returning for revenge later. The ruling won broad support across China. On Weibo, many hailed it a historic victory for those forced to kill in self-defense. What about you? Do you back Yu Haiming's actions and the court's decision? Story 4. In recent times, IU has made a triumphant return to the small screen, capturing widespread acclaim alongside Park Bo-gum in the drama When Life Gives You Tangerines. The series has become a focal point, drawing viewers in with its delicate yet profound narrative, elevated by the raw, emotional performances of IU and Park Bo-gum. IU doesn't merely portray a vibrant young woman, set against the picturesque backdrop of Jeju Island. She fully embodies the character's journey, her pain, her hope, and her growth. Through IU's eyes, we witness a spectrum of emotions, from moments bursting with life to quiet scenes of introspection, each gaze revealing the depths of her inner world. It's not acting. It's as if she's living every heartbeat of her characters. The seamless fusion of nuanced performance and powerful emotional delivery reaffirms IU's undeniable talent. More than just a story about the tangerines life offers, the drama unfolds as a compelling journey of finding meaning amidst the trials of youth. This project marks yet another milestone in IU's career, showcasing her keen instinct for selecting impactful scripts and her continuous growth as an actress with every role she takes on. Beyond her on-screen success, IU reigns as K-pop's digital music queen, enchanting millions of fans across the globe. With her doll-like beauty, a voice as sweet as honey, and a string of chart-topping hits that have echoed far and wide, IU is more than a musical icon. She's been affectionately dubbed the nation's little sister by countless admirers. She seems to embody an almost perfect ideal, a figure it's impossible not to adore. Yet beneath the shimmering facade, IU has found herself at the center of numerous fiery controversies, endless debates that have swirled around her life and career. From allegations surrounding her songwriting and lyrics to polarizing decisions in her personal life, she has repeatedly sparked public uproar. What's striking, however, is that despite being entangled in a web of scandals, IU seems to always earn the public's forgiveness, swiftly reclaiming her place at the pinnacle of fame. This resilience has led a significant portion of social media users to brand her with a biting nickname, the Queen of Whitewashing. So, what scandals have led one of K-pop's most iconic solo artists to be saddled with this label? How has IU managed to weather every storm and maintain her unshakable position in the industry? Is she truly a misunderstood talent? Or are there deeper secrets lurking behind her dazzling aura of stardom? In today's video, we'll dive deep into every detail, uncovering the layers surrounding South Korea's national treasure, IU, and seeking the truth behind the relentless controversies that have dominated social media. You're watching True Crime in the World. Before we begin, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to support our channel. Thank you so much for joining us, and now let's get started. In recent years, IU has undergone a dramatic transformation, shedding her image as the sweet nation's little sister to emerge as a formidable actress, earning a cascade of praise for her roles in My Mr., Hotel del Luna, and most recently, When Life Gives You Tangerines. But behind this glittering ascent lies a history of struggle in her acting career, marked by relentless criticism and harsh labels like talentless idol actress and walking vase, a stinging metaphor for beauty without substance. IU first ventured into acting in 2011, but it wasn't until Moon Lover's Scarlet Heart Rio that she landed a leading role with real weight. The drama boasted a star-studded cast featuring heavyweights like Lee Jun-ji, Kang Han-ul, and Nam Joo-hyuk. Yet amidst this ensemble of seasoned actors, IU found herself the focal point of scathing criticism in her early roles. Her performance was often described as stiff and devoid of emotion. Scenes that should have tugged at the audience's heartstrings, like her tearful moments, became lightning rods for controversy. Her expressions deemed awkward and forced, with only her striking beauty to compensate. When placed beside powerhouse performers like Lee Jun-ji and Kang Han-ul, IU's inexperience was laid bare, her novice status painfully evident. Many went so far as to claim that IU was the reason Moon Lovers flopped in South Korea. While the drama garnered a passionate international following, its domestic ratings were dismal. IU was branded with the damning label of idol-turned-actor, a heavy stereotype that often serves as a death sentence for any singer daring to cross into the world of acting. Following the disappointment of Moon Lovers' Scarlet Heart Rio, IU made her return to the screen with My Mr. Yet, even before the project aired, it was met with fierce backlash from the public. The reason? IU was paired with Lee Sun-kyun, an actor 18 years her senior, in a story with a grim tone that many feared could negatively influence young viewers. But when My Mr. finally premiered, all prior skepticism was turned on its head. The drama quickly became a phenomenon, and more crucially, IU's acting, after 2 years of growth, showed remarkable improvement. Gone was the inexperience, the stiff expressions, and the emotional disconnect. IU fully immersed herself in her character, her every glance and gesture radiating pain, isolation, and the desperate struggle of a soul at its breaking point. If My Mr. was the turning point that restored the audience's faith in IU, then Hotel del Luna, also known as Catch San and Trang, was the explosive moment that cemented the nation's little sister as a true acting powerhouse. In this series, IU took on the role of Jang Man-wool, the enigmatic owner of a hotel for wandering souls. IU didn't just captivate viewers with her stunning visuals. She won them over with a performance brimming with depth. She brought to life a Jang Man-wool who was cold and ruthless, a Jang Man-wool burdened by 1,000 years of resentment, and a Jang Man-wool who exuded pride yet teetered on the edge of fragility, as if she could shatter at any moment. From that point on, the label of idol-turned-actor no longer haunted IU. But was her acting career the only source of drama in her life? Let's delve deeper into the controversies surrounding her personal journey. One of the most shocking controversies in IU's career erupted with the intimate photo scandal involving Yoon Hyuk, a member of the iconic K-pop group Super Junior. This wasn't just a scandal that severely rattled IU's carefully crafted image as the nation's first love. It also unleashed devastating consequences for both artists, particularly Yoon Hyuk, who, despite his innocence, bore the brunt of the public's wrath. On November 10, 2012, shortly after IU released her hit single Good Day, a time when her fame was still on the rise but nowhere near its current heights, the young singer stunned the K-pop world by posting a photo on her personal account that sent shockwaves through the industry. In the image, IU was dressed in a cute pair of pajamas, a gift from her fans, while beside her sat Yoon Hyuk of Super Junior, appearing to be shirtless. The two were positioned on what looked like a bed, their closeness suggesting an intimacy that felt all too real, as if they were a genuine couple. Within minutes, the photo spread like wildfire across social media, igniting heated discussions on forums and platforms worldwide. IU quickly deleted the image, but it was far too late. Fans had already captured screenshots, sharing them relentlessly from Twitter to K-pop forums. A storm of rumors erupted. Were IU and Yoon Hyuk secretly dating? Had they gotten married in private? Some even speculated that IU was pregnant. Hashtags tied to the scandal skyrocketed to the top of trending lists, racking up millions of views in a single night. The public was in a frenzy, and fans of both artists were thrown into a state of utter chaos. IU's management company, Lone Entertainment, scrambled to release an official statement to quell the firestorm. They claimed that Yoon Hyuk had merely visited IU while she was unwell, and the photo was uploaded by mistake. They emphasized, IU and Yoon Hyuk have been close friends for a long time. Yoon Hyuk even had dinner with IU's mother once. We sincerely apologize for any harm caused to Yoon Hyuk, and ask the public to refrain from spreading false rumors. But was this explanation truly enough to satisfy the public? The backlash following the photo was far more intense than anyone could have predicted. Many refused to buy Lone's story, questioning why, if it was just a friendly visit during an illness, Yoon Hyuk would be shirtless and sitting on IU's bed. The wave of criticism grew louder, showing no signs of slowing down. Super Junior's fans, particularly the ELF fandom, were livid, accusing IU of deliberately dragging Yoon Hyuk into the scandal to garner attention. At the time, Yoon Hyuk was a rising star, while IU was still building her name. Many believed the nation's little sister had orchestrated the controversy to boost her own fame. The scandal didn't just tarnish IU's reputation, it left a lasting scar on Yoon Hyuk's career. While IU faced her share of criticism, she gradually won back the public's affection with her innocent image and a string of successful hits. For Yoon Hyuk, however, the road to recovery was far more grueling. The public and media relentlessly brought up the scandal, using it as fodder to mock him at every turn. During a recording of the NBC show Come to Play, host Yoo Jae-suk posed a pointed question to Yoon Hyuk. How do you feel participating in the show during such a difficult time? Co-host Kim Won-hee chimed in with a teasing follow-up. What difficult time are we talking about? The remarks left Yoon Hyuk with little choice but to force an awkward smile, attempting to laugh it off while masking his discomfort. A Super Junior fan later shared their frustration in a Reddit post, writing, "This scandal nearly destroyed Yoon Hyuk's career. He was constantly dragged into entertainment shows just to be mocked, and it drove him into depression." At one point, Yoon Hyuk even considered leaving the entertainment industry for good. Yet, the person who caused all of this seemed to live a carefree life. It wasn't until 2013, on the SBS program Incarnation, that South Korea's national treasure, IU, finally opened up about the incident for the first time. With tears welling in her eyes, IU confessed, "I posted that photo without thinking, and I have no one to blame but myself. I didn't know who I should apologize to more, Yoon Hyuk, the people who care about me or those who were hurt by this. All I know is that I'm deeply sorry to everyone." The nation's little sister also revealed the overwhelming panic she felt when the scandal broke, admitting she had no idea how to handle the fallout, and leaned heavily on her close friend, Yoon, for support. IU recounted, "That day, Yoon came to my house with snacks and stayed with me, talking for hours. She even deliberately requested my song to be played on the radio to cheer me up. I felt so grateful, but at the same time, I felt guilty for dragging her into my mess." IU's apology softened the hearts of some viewers, who began to sympathize with her. However, others were skeptical, accusing her of playing the victim to regain public favor. Regardless, the scandal left an indelible stain on her singing career, marking the first time IU's pristine, nation's little sister image was seriously shaken. After slowly regaining the public's affection following her scandal with Yoon Hyuk, IU continued to solidify her talent with a string of hits like You and I in 2011 and The Red Shoes in 2013. But in 2015, she found herself swept into another maelstrom of criticism, this time centered on her album, Chatsire, a project that was expected to be a defining moment in her career. This was IU's first album where she took a direct hand in writing and producing, but instead of receiving praise, it became the epicenter of a firestorm of controversies, ranging from plagiarism allegations to accusations of inappropriate content. The moment the mini-album dropped, its lead single, 23, ignited heated debates across K-pop forums. Netizens were quick to point out that the song's melody bore a striking resemblance to Britney Spears' 2007 chart-topping hit, Gimme More. Specifically, the electronic beat and vocal inflections in the chorus of 23 were deemed suspiciously similar to those in Gimme More. The drama escalated further when a music publishing company stepped forward, claiming that not only 23 but also several of IU's earlier tracks, including Good Day from 2010 and The Red Shoes from 2013, showed signs of plagiarism from international artists. These accusations spread rapidly, branding IU as unoriginal and accusing her of deliberately copying others to craft her hits. IU's management, Lone Entertainment, swiftly issued a denial, asserting that there was no copying involved and that all songs were created from original ideas. By 2023, the songwriters behind Good Day and The Red Shoes, including Lee Min-soo and Lee Jong-hoon, also came to the defense of the nation's little sister. They stated, "We neither referenced nor copied any songs during the creation process." These are baseless accusations meant to tarnish IU's reputation and hurt those who love her. A music expert later analyzed the claims and concluded that the allegations were merely a manipulation of melodies to create misunderstanding, lacking sufficient evidence to constitute plagiarism. Though she was eventually cleared, the scandal left a lingering shadow over IU's public image. Many began to question, was IU truly the talented artist she appeared to be? Or was she simply a performer who relied on imitation to achieve success? But the controversy surrounding Chatsheyer didn't end there. The track Zays from the mini-album Chatsheyer also came under fire for its allegedly inappropriate content. The song drew inspiration from Zae, a 5-year-old boy from the novel My Sweet Orange Tree by José Mauro de Vasconcelos. IU intended Zae to capture the innocence and emotions of the character, but the execution in the music video was deeply perplexing. From IU's perspective, Zae was both adorable and alluring, yet also stubborn, a combination she found captivating. However, many South Korean viewers pointed out that, in the book, Zae is a victim of abuse and violence. The album cover, which depicted a young boy without pants and wearing fishnet stockings, only fueled public outrage, leading many to accuse IU of harboring disturbing thoughts about a 5-year-old child. The controversy drew in director Kim Jong-kwon, known for working on music videos for prominent K-pop groups like EXO and FX. Taking to his personal Twitter account, Kim subtly mocked the explanation provided by the team behind the 23 music video. He wrote, "So, Jae-hwan, the author of the book Wish, which was adapted into a film about a young girl assaulted by a drunken man on her way home, also publicly criticized IU. So, demanded that IU remove Zae from the album, stating, 'A name is a deeply sensitive matter for an artist. It's the first thing they share with their audience. The reason she's being criticized is because she publicly presented Zae and called it art. IU's Zae has led people to associate it with abuse and predatory behavior toward children. The song and its music video should be taken down.'" The drama intensified when a music publishing company issued a statement condemning IU, accusing her of misconduct through the song. They argued that the imagery and lyrics were inappropriate, especially given that Zae is a child. The public erupted in anger, with many demanding that IU issue an apology and remove the song from the album. Some fans defended her, arguing that IU was simply trying to create art, but their voices were quickly drowned out by the tidal wave of criticism. Under mounting pressure, IU and her management company addressed the controversy. IU stated, "I'm heartbroken that my work has been misunderstood. My intention was to express Zae's innocence and emotions, with no ill intent whatsoever. If I've hurt anyone, I sincerely apologize." Lowen Entertainment also clarified that the song was not meant to cause harm, and the music publishing company later retracted its accusations, issuing an apology for the misunderstanding. Nevertheless, the scandal left a significant mark on IU's reputation. Many began referring to her as the Queen of Whitewashing, accusing the nation's little sister of always finding ways to navigate scandals with apologies and her innocent image. But was IU deliberately courting controversy to gain attention? Or was this simply a misunderstanding blown out of proportion? In another chapter of IU's controversial journey, she openly admitted to being a passionate fan of the legendary K-pop group God, with a particular admiration for the lead vocalist, Kim Tae-woo. During an interview, IU even declared that Kim Tae-woo was her ideal type, sending fans of both IU and God into a frenzy of excitement. She shared, "I've loved God since I was a child, and Kim Tae-woo inspired me to become a singer." But when the two appeared together on a television program, IU's demeanor told a different story. She seemed utterly indifferent, treating Kim Tae-woo like a stranger throughout the entire filming. When the show's producer asked IU, "Is it true that you like Kim Tae-woo?" she responded bluntly, "No, I just respect him." The moment quickly spread across social media, and many viewers began to criticize IU, accusing her of using Kim Tae-woo's name to craft a favorable image for herself. The next drama in IU's saga involved Jang Woo-young, a member of the group 2PM, and spiraled into a viral controversy dubbed the sirloin beef incident. The story unfolded during a dinner after filming Dream High, where IU, Woo-young, and a group of about 10 people, including staff, dined at an upscale beef restaurant. According to a 2015 post on Pan, IU jokingly said to Woo-young, "If Appa pays for this meal while I'm in the bathroom, that would be so cool." Initially, Woo-young declined, as the meal was exorbitantly priced for a party of 10. with the sirloin beef alone costing a hefty sum. However, in the end, he and Park Jin-young split the bill. IU's fans later came to her defense, explaining that her comment was meant as a lighthearted joke, and that she and Woo Young remained on good terms afterward. IU even attended Woo Young's birthday party, and she once stated, "I felt so guilty that my joke was misunderstood. Woo Young Appa had already paid before I even said anything, and I never meant to hurt him." However, the story was blown out of proportion when IU later shared on radio shows and interviews, "Woo Young Appa willingly treated me to expensive sirloin beef." This comment led the public to mistakenly believe that Woo Young was trying to impress IU, severely damaging his reputation. Some even labeled Woo Young as sleazy, accusing him of having inappropriate intentions toward a minor. As a result, Woo Young was forced to appear on television multiple times to clarify the truth, but the damage to his image was significant. Following this verbal misstep, many began to view IU with suspicion. They accused her of exploiting Woo Young to draw attention to herself, and her ability to navigate the fallout with a gentle apology, quickly accepted by the public, only reinforced her nickname, the Queen of Whitewashing. The next unfortunate figure caught in IU's web of drama was Simon D. The incident unfolded during a 2015 radio show, where IU and Simon D appeared together. During the broadcast, IU unexpectedly revealed that she had repeatedly messaged Simon D because they had previously worked together on another radio program. What shocked the audience, however, was her statement. "I texted Simon D Appa so many times, but he never replied to me, not even once." IU emphasized the situation multiple times, prompting the public to turn their criticism towards Simon D for ignoring a beautiful and famous singer like her. But the narrative took a sharp turn when another guest on the show, singer Lee Hyun, stepped in to defend Simon D. Lee Hyun revealed that he had once asked IU for her phone number, only for her to claim she didn't have a phone. He pointedly questioned, "If IU didn't give me her number, then why is she talking about Simon D like this on air?" This revelation shifted the public's ire back toward IU, with many accusing her of deliberately calling out Simon D to gain attention and paint him in a negative light. Some even noted that Simon D seemed to anticipate IU's tactics, with his expression during the show described as, "He looked at IU like, here she goes again." The digital music queen did not issue an official statement about the incident, but the drama added yet another blemish to her public image. Many began to suspect that IU wasn't as innocent as her outward persona suggested, instead portraying her as a calculated figure skilled at crafting her image and navigating scandals. Though relatively minor, this incident further fueled the nickname, Queen of Whitewashing, as IU seemed to consistently find ways to weather criticism and emerge stronger than ever. The next controversy surrounding IU erupted in 2022, when she and her management company, EDM Entertainment, were accused of discriminating against fans during the production of a documentary about her. Specifically, the production team reached out to several prominent fans of the digital music queen for interviews and input for the documentary, but they overlooked many smaller fan sites. This left some fans feeling hurt and disrespected. The issue quickly gained traction on social media with the hashtag IU discriminates fans, amassing millions of views. Many criticized IU and her team, accusing her of favoring a select group of fans to maintain her image while disregarding other devoted supporters. Facing mounting public pressure, IU's management company issued a statement to address the controversy. They explained, the decision to contact certain fans was an impromptu action by a script writer who left the project shortly afterward. The interview content was not used in the final documentary. We sincerely apologize for this misunderstanding and will strive to ensure IU's heartfelt story reaches all her fans. IU also posted a brief message on Instagram, expressing her sadness over her fans' hurt feelings and promising to work harder so no one would feel left behind. This apology managed to temper some of the criticism, but many remained unsatisfied. Some fans argued that IU should have gone further, perhaps by meeting with those who felt hurt or hosting an event to make amends, rather than simply posting a short statement online. While this drama wasn't as explosive as the ChatShare scandal, it still left a portion of the public questioning. Does IU genuinely care about all her fans, or is she merely trying to preserve her perfect image? It's undeniable that IU's journey from an innocent, beautiful girl who captured millions of hearts with her sweet voice and breakout hit Good Day, to becoming K-pop's digital music queen, has been marred by controversies, making her one of the most scandal-ridden artists in K-pop history. This dichotomy raises significant questions about her true character. Yet IU has consistently found ways to rise above the turmoil, reclaiming her spot at the top with projects like My Mr. and her The Golden Hour Tour. This resilience has led some to dub her the Queen of Whitewashing, a nod to her apparent ability to cleanse her image time and time again. So, is IU truly a victim of misunderstandings, or is she a cunning artist hiding behind an innocent facade? What do you think of this enigmatic star? Story 5. At 3 p.m. on November 2nd, 2020, the quiet calm of Huafu Street in Nanyang District, Chongqing City, China, shattered. From the 15th floor, 2 children plummeted to the ground below, their fall punctuated by a deafening crash. Their father, Zhang Bo, still in pajamas and barefoot in his panic, raced to the scene. He shoved through the gathering crowd, dropped to his knees, and wept uncontrollably. Pounding the pavement and slamming his head against the wall, he berated himself for failing to watch his kids, letting them play near the window until tragedy struck. Onlookers at the scene felt a pang of sympathy for the distraught father and mourned the ill-fated children. But a police discovery flipped the case on its head. From over 10,000 messages extracted from the father's phone and his lovers, investigators uncovered a chilling truth. The children didn't accidentally fall. Zhang Bo had deliberately pushed them to their deaths. It's hard to fathom such ruthless cruelty from a human being. You're watching True Crime in the World, where we explore the most puzzling cases and most gripping stories. As usual, before we begin unraveling today's mystery, please leave us a like and subscribe to support the channel. Thank you so much. After the incident, Zhang Bo's Oscar-worthy performance dominated headlines across major media outlets, earning waves of public sympathy. But Chun Mei-lin, the children's mother, wasn't convinced. She argued her 2-year-old daughter had just learned to walk, and her 1-year-old son couldn't even stand. How could they fall from such a height? The apartment in this complex had pre-installed safety railings over half a meter tall, plus an 80-centimeter high window. For a 1- and 2-year-old to climb out seemed nearly impossible. When Chun Mei-lin alerted police, Zhang Bo quickly became a suspect. Questioned by officers, Zhang, a man with only a primary school education, feigned bewilderment, as if he hadn't considered the implausibility himself. Evidence from the home investigation soon pointed to him as the prime suspect. Police seized Zhang Bo's phone, recovering over 17,000 messages between him and his mistress, Yi Chengchen. The investigation team found the pair had premeditated the crime. Even seasoned criminal investigators were stunned by the callousness in their exchanges. First, let's look at Zhang Bo's background. Born in 1994 to a poor family in Fengzhuang village, 80 kilometers from central Chongqing, he dropped out after primary school to work. Despite his limited education, Zhang's tall, handsome frame made him a magnet for young women at his job. He spent 3 or 4 years at a small finance company. In 2016, he met his ex-wife, Chun Mei-lin, when she started there. Zhang was on the verge of quitting, but stayed to finish some tasks, landing them in the same team. Colleagues teased them as a pair, sparking a growing closeness. After leaving the job, Zhang kept guiding Chun Mei-lin at work, often picking her up or dropping her off. She saw his kindness as genuine and soon developed feelings for him. However, Chun Mei-lin was a university graduate from a stable, well-off family. Her parents held steady jobs with decent incomes, owned a spacious home in Chongqing, and had city residency status. As their only child, Chun Mei-lin grew up pampered, nurtured like a delicate flower in a greenhouse. From family background to education, the gap between her and Zhang Bo was vast, like roadside grass reaching for clouds. When her parents learned she'd chosen a rural man with no house, no car, and no savings, they fiercely opposed the match. Yet, defying their vehement objections, Chun Mei-lin stood by Zhang Bo even when he had nothing. In the early days of his small loan company, she weathered the toughest times alongside him. As years passed, Zhang's business took off, at times pulling in 20,000 to 30,000 yuan monthly, roughly 2,800 to 4,200 US dollars. In 2017, less than 6 months into their relationship, Chun Meilin discovered she was pregnant. Zhang Bo didn't hesitate to propose marriage. Though her father remained against it, the pregnancy left him no choice but to reluctantly agree. Notably, Chun Meilin's family footed the entire wedding bill. Even the rings and photos came from their pockets. Zhang Bo claimed his startup had drained his funds, leaving him penniless. Blinded by love, Chun Meilin didn't dwell on it. She was too swept up in the joy of her budding family. There's a saying, a man's storms shape his life, but his future rides on his wife's family. Like many who covet their in-laws' wealth, Zhang Bo transformed after the wedding. He worked dawn to dusk, then holed up in the bedroom gaming, barely speaking to his wife. In Chun Meilin's memory, he never once held their daughter, Shui. Just a month after Shui's birth, Chun Meilin conceived again. After their son, Yang arrived, Zhang Bo's indifference persisted. He dodged family duties, citing a busy work schedule to avoid coming home, straining their marriage further into distance and tension. In April 2019, Zhang Bo crossed paths with Yi Chengxin through work. Hiding his wife and kids, he pursued her relentlessly. The truth couldn't stay buried forever. By August 2019, Chun Meilin uncovered their affair. Zhang Bo pushed for divorce, but Chun Meilin, thinking of her newborn son and 1-year-old daughter, refused. She swallowed her pride, even kneeling to beg him not to leave. Now let's turn to the mistress Yi Chengxin. Her logic chilled many to the bone. To her, Zhang Bo's 2 children from his marriage were thorns in her side. Unbearable even if she didn't have to raise them. Yi might have been an outsider, but Zhang Bo was their flesh and blood father. Yet, over the next few months, this ruthless pair plotted together, devising a way to deal with the kids and stage it as an accident. By October 18th, Yi Chengxin's patience had worn thin. She bombarded Zhang Bo with messages, pressing him to act. If his son ceased to exist, she'd compromise. After weeks of scheming, Zhang Bo sprang into motion. Claiming he hadn't seen his daughter in ages, he said he wanted to buy her new clothes. He enlisted his mother to contact his ex-wife, Chun Meilin, to bring their daughter, Shui, to Huafu Street. That day, Chun Meilin's mother was stunned by Zhang Bo's sudden interest and firmly opposed it. She reasoned that Shui, now this old, had never known her father's affection. Why the abrupt concern and shopping trip? She even feared he might kidnap and sell the girl off. Chun Meilin saw it differently. Despite his apathy toward the kids, she thought even a vicious tiger wouldn't eat its cubs. Indeed, before the tragedy, who could have imagined such horror? It defied human limits. Wanting her daughter to feel a father's care, she agreed to let Shui visit Zhang Bo. On October 25th, Chun Meilin personally dropped Shui off at Zhang Bo's place. But instead of leaving, she offered to wait until the shopping was done, let the girl play a bit, then take her home together. This threw Zhang Bo's plan into disarray. Panicked he'd upset his mistress, he texted Yi. There are too many people here now. My mom's getting food for the kids. Their mother's watching them play. I'll snap some pizza today for you. I'm waiting for my chance. Yi Chengxin fired back, sulking. Why didn't you tell her mom to leave when the girl arrived so you could play with her? Zhang Bo scrambled to appease her, promising that if it didn't work today, he'd fetch Shui the next week to execute their scheme. He then warned him to handle it cleanly this time. No repeats of past slip-ups. Data recovered from Zhang Bo's phone by police revealed this wasn't their first attempt to harm the children. Both seemed eager for the right moment. What had these kids done to irk her so much that they'd rush to snuff out their lives? Shui was already in her mother's custody, hardly an obstacle to this heartless duo. On November 1st, Zhang Bo again used the clothes-buying excuse to ask Chun Meilin to bring Shui over. Her grandmother grew wary. Clothes last week? More this week? Something felt off. But with their son still living with Zhang Bo and hoping to secure better visitation rights later, Chun Meilin felt compelled to comply. This was the opening the wretched father seized for his brutal plan. At 3 p.m. on November 2nd, 2020, Yi Changqin's patience snapped. She sent Zhang Bo a photo of her self-inflicted wrist cuts. Texting, seeing his lover's message, Zhang Bo replied that he loved her deeply and would face any hardship. Steeled by her plea, he resolved to eliminate his own children. Without hesitation, he hurled both kids out the window. One died on impact, the other succumbed at the hospital. The cause? Respiratory and circulatory failure from multiple organ injuries to the head, brain, chest, and abdomen. During the investigation, police found Wei Shui's fingerprints on the window, suggesting she instinctively grabbed it as she fell. Alongside them were Zhang Bo's footprints. This father's savage act left many wondering, who was Yi Changqin, and what hold did she have over him to drive him to slaughter his own children for her? Yi Changqin and Zhang Bo met through work. Learning she was the daughter of a food company owner in Chengdu, Zhang Bo swiftly set out to win her heart. Their chat logs revealed Ye's penchant for irrational whining and outrageous demands. Yet Zhang Bo bent over backwards to fulfill her every whim. Before long, their bond grew intense. In return for Zhang Bo's fervent devotion, Yi Changqin funneled business deals to his company. Her parents' Chengdu-based food firm, established over a decade ago, boasted a registered capital of 500,000 yuan and total investments of 20 million yuan, specializing in food production and sales. Before the case broke, it thrived, its products trusted by locals. He held a 20% stake and served as financial manager. But after the scandal, netizens vilified the company, and locals boycotted it. Even a new manager couldn't salvage the sinking business. He shuddered in the end. Before the preliminary trial, Yi Changqin's lawyer approached Chun Mei-lin, offering 300,000 yuan, about $42,000, from Ye's family as compensation, hoping for forgiveness. Naturally, Chun Mei-lin refused. They upped the offer by another 300,000 yuan, but she stood firm. Her sole demand? The death penalty for both. At the trial, Yi Changqin spoke of slashing her wrists before the crime, a move that finally sparked fury in her ever-compliant partner. He admitted he'd wavered about going through with it, but Ye's self-harm forced his hand. Zhang Bo pinned her as the mastermind, arguing she bore the brunt of responsibility. Yi, meanwhile, claimed her actions stemmed from loving Zhang Bo too much. After discovering his deception, she'd hurt herself to push him to back off and offer to end things. Her defense lawyer argued Zhang Bo committed intentional murder, while Yi was merely an accomplice. The Chongqing No. 5 Intermediate People's Court sentenced both Zhang Bo and Yi Changqin to death. Yet after the verdict, Yi repeatedly appealed, naming others allegedly tied to the case, dragging it into an appellate hearing. Chun Mei-lin, meanwhile, voiced her anguish upon learning her children's father had killed them. The moment I heard my kids were thrown from the 15th floor by their father and his lover, no words could capture my feelings. I can't fathom what they endured falling from that height. Were they desperate? Were they scared? Before the appellate trial, Zhang Bo sent Chun Mei-lin 3 letters in January alone, pleading for her forgiveness. She saw through his feigned remorse. A ploy, she said, to sway the court's mercy. She demanded he drop the act to spare further delays. Chun Mei-lin penned a response. The best way for you and her to atone is to accept the first trial sentence and find peace quietly. If monsters who commit such atrocities escape the death penalty, no child will ever be safe. She noted Zhang Bo hadn't written her once in the 13 months since their children's deaths until the initial trial, or even since they'd started dating in 2017. In those 3 letters, dated January 1st, 14, and 27, posted by Chun Mei-lin alongside her reply in a Douyin video, Zhang Bo offered his mortgaged house as compensation. But the grieving mother vowed never to forgive her ex-husband. At the letter's close, she wrote, "For my 2 children, I must see him pay with his life, no matter what." Chinese netizens rallied behind Chun Mei-lin's resolve. One pointed out that Zhang Bo's letters brimmed with excuses and didn't even mention the kids. On December 28, 2021, the Supreme People's Court of China reviewed the case in a retrial. After deliberation, the court upheld that Zhang Bo and Yi Changqin were the perpetrators, both playing primary roles. The court found that Zhang Bo and Yi Qingqian viewed his children as obstacles to their marriage, conspiring to kill them by staging an accidental fall from a height. The case posed a severe challenge to legal and moral boundaries. Their methods were vicious, the consequences devastatingly grave, demanding the sternest punishment. Ye's attempt to shift blame to others was deemed baseless and false. The Supreme People's Court of China affirmed the death sentences for Zhang Bo and his mistress. On January 31, 2024, the Chongqing No. 5 Intermediate People's Court carried out the execution order issued by the Supreme Court, putting Zhang Bo and Yi Qingqian to death. Before the execution, the court allowed the two convicts to meet with family members. Their crime unleashed a torrent of outrage across China, fueled by its chilling brutality and the tender age of the victims. The adage, "Even a fierce tiger spares its cubs," lost all meaning in the face of Zhang Bo's extreme cruelty. To appease his lover, he callously snuffed out his own children's lives, hurling them from a high floor. News of their execution shot to the top of trending topics on China's Weibo that day, racking up nearly 200 million views. With such heart-wrenching details, questions of fairness and severity in the death penalty grow complex. Some argue the punishment was too harsh. Others insist it fits the gravity of their heinous act. This split reflects broader societal divides over penalties in cases of egregious crimes like murder. Story 6. In October 2010, a man with a tense expression hurriedly disembarked from a plane. Once settled in the taxi leaving the airport, a triumphant smirk spread across his face. Deep down, he believed he had pulled off a perfect crime, a plan meticulously crafted over months, so airtight that even if the police discovered the two victims lying in a pool of blood, they would be left grasping at straws. Today, we'll unravel the mystery of a case that sent shockwaves through the public. The killer was cunning beyond measure, calculating every move with precision, leaving the investigative team grappling with countless obstacles. If not for a photograph accidentally taken by a police officer over 1,500 kilometers from the crime scene, this case might truly have remained a perfect crime with no resolution. You're watching True Crime in the World, where we explore the most puzzling cases and most gripping stories. As usual, before we begin unraveling today's mystery, please leave us a like and subscribe to support the channel. Thank you so much. The tragedy unfolded in Perth, the capital of Western Australia. Despite being Australia's fourth largest city, Perth is often dubbed the loneliest city in the world due to its isolated geographical location, thousands of kilometers away from other major urban centers. In recent years, the Chinese community here has grown significantly, with an influx of Asian restaurants, supermarkets, and high-quality educational institutions attracting many Chinese immigrants to settle in the area. It was in this seemingly peaceful city that the dark events of this story took place. Sun Dan and Zhao Nuo, a Chinese couple, lived in the affluent Mindarie suburb of Perth. Their comfortable lifestyle wasn't the result of high-paying jobs, but rather the immense wealth of Zhao Nuo's family. His mother, Song Tiapei, was the head of a major construction conglomerate in China, while his father held a position as a government official. Rumors even circulated that Zhao Nuo's uncle was a high-ranking official, meaning Zhao Nuo grew up in a family of wealth and influence. Like many elite Chinese families, Zhao Nuo's parents placed great emphasis on education. They sent their son to study in Australia, purchasing a lavish villa in Mindarie for him to live in. It was there, through a family introduction, that he met Sun Dan, a young woman from Liaoning, China. Born in 1983, she was 4 years younger than Zhao Nuo. Though she didn't come from a prestigious family like her husband, Sun Dan still enjoyed a relatively comfortable life. She had come to Australia as an international student, carrying dreams and aspirations for a brighter future. Their meeting and subsequent romance felt almost inevitable. In a foreign land, finding a compatriot who shared the same language and culture was a rare comfort. Moreover, Zhao Nuo was strikingly handsome, and Sun Dan was breathtakingly beautiful. They quickly fell in love and tied the knot in April 2008 at the Perth Exhibition Centre in a lavish wedding that left their friends in awe. After their marriage, the young couple led a life of luxury. Backed by the immense wealth of Zhao Nua's family, they never had to worry about money. They frequently traveled together, indulged in extravagant dinners, and lived a dreamlike, blissful existence. Their happiness seemed to double when, in 2009, they welcomed their first child, a daughter named Chi-Chi. Chi-Chi's arrival brought boundless joy to both families. Song Taipei, Zhao Nua's mother, was particularly elated, immediately flying to Australia to help her son care for her granddaughter. However, her presence marked the beginning of a turbulent new chapter, the classic clash between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. At first, their cohabitation went smoothly, but tensions soon began to surface between the couple. Both Zhao Nua and son Dan were only children, spoiled from a young age, which made them somewhat selfish and unwilling to compromise. With Chi-Chi's birth, their lives became busier and more stressful, leading to frequent arguments. Song Taipei's interference in their personal lives only exacerbated the conflict. She consistently took her son's side, leaving son Dan feeling isolated and alone in her own home. By April 2010, the family conflict had reached a breaking point. The marriage was beyond saving, and son Dan and Zhao Nua began the process of divorce. Son Dan decided to leave the villa in Mindarie, taking her daughter Chi-Chi to rent a small apartment in Balga, a suburb north of Perth. She even took Chi-Chi back to China for a while to escape the mounting tension. But the real tragedy struck when Chi-Chi was kidnapped in Shenyang, China. Son Dan was on the verge of collapse when she discovered that her daughter's passport and identification documents had also vanished. She immediately realized there was only one person who could be behind this, Zhao Nua. Left with no other choice, she sought help from the Australian embassy and Chinese diplomatic authorities. After exhaustive efforts, they discovered that Zhao Nua had secretly brought Chi-Chi back to Perth. Son Dan hurriedly flew to Australia to reclaim custody of her daughter. Her mother, Kang Jishin, also decided to travel to Perth to support her daughter and granddaughter. However, Zhao Nua's family wasn't willing to let go so easily. They repeatedly used the excuse of visiting their granddaughter to take Chi-Chi to their home for a few days before returning her to her mother. The battle for custody between the two sides raged on. On the surface, it seemed like a typical divorce scenario. Two parents fighting over custody, with a court ruling likely on the horizon. But in reality, events were veering down a far darker path, one steeped in tragedy and bloodshed. On September 30th, 2010, Chi-Chi had been picked up by her paternal grandmother early that morning to spend the day with her. Around 7:30 p.m., son Dan and her mother drove back to their apartment. As their car pulled into the garage, a white Mitsubishi suddenly sped forward, blocking their path and cutting off any chance of retreat. At the same moment, a silver Mercedes roared in, forming a pincer-like trap. Sensing the danger, son Dan's mother, Kang Jishin, immediately stepped out of the car to investigate. But before she could react, a mysterious man charged at her, swinging a sledgehammer with brutal force directly at her head. Against the assailant's muscular build, Kang was utterly defenseless. In an instant, she collapsed, lying motionless in a pool of blood. The man then drew a dagger and advanced towards son Dan, who was still inside the car. Terrified, she screamed for help, but her cries went unanswered. The attacker brandished the knife, stabbing her repeatedly in a frenzied assault. Within moments, blood splattered everywhere, turning the car's interior into a scene of sheer horror. After committing the act, the killer swiftly jumped into one of the vehicles, and both cars sped away from the scene. Not long after, neighbors noticed something was terribly wrong, and immediately called the police. Emergency responders arrived quickly, but it was too late for son Dan. She had succumbed to her severe injuries. Kang Jishin, her face disfigured from the attack, was barely clinging to life. After emergency treatment, she narrowly escaped death, but doctors warned that she faced the risk of becoming permanently vegetative. The Perth police launched an immediate investigation. They recovered a blood-stained sledgehammer at the scene, but the killer had clearly planned the attack meticulously, wearing gloves to avoid leaving any fingerprints or other traceable evidence. Given the well-known animosity between son Dan and Zhao Nua, coupled with their ongoing divorce. The police quickly identified Zhao Nuo as a suspect with a clear motive. The very next morning, they arrived at his home to question him. However, Zhao Nuo was not in Australia at the time of the crime. Only his mother and young Chi-Chi were present at the house. When questioned by the police, Zhao Nuo's mother calmly stated, "My son returned to China on September 11th to visit family and hasn't come back since." The police verified immigration records and confirmed that Zhao Nuo had indeed left Australia on September 11th and had not returned. This gave him a seemingly airtight alibi. So, if not Zhao Nuo, who else had a reason to carry out such a brutal attack on Sundan? With no other immediate suspects, the police continued to investigate the victims' personal relationships. Their findings revealed that Sundan led a modest life, running a small nail salon. Apart from caring for her daughter and studying English, she had few friends and no known conflicts with anyone. The only person she had a dispute with was Zhao Nuo. Despite his alibi, all suspicion pointed squarely at him. The police began to suspect that he might have hired someone to kill his wife. Digging deeper, the police uncovered that Zhao Nuo was not as unassuming as he appeared. On the surface, he was a low-paid security guard, often seen patrolling the neighborhood with his German Shepherd. But in reality, he owned 2 companies, 3 properties, and a silver Mercedes coupe, the exact description of one of the 2 cars spotted at the crime scene. This wealth aligned perfectly with his identity as a spoiled rich kid. Sundan was well aware of her husband's vast fortune, which is why, during the divorce proceedings, she repeatedly demanded custody of their daughter, alimony, and a fair division of assets. Viewed through this lens, Zhao Nuo's motive became glaringly apparent. To avoid splitting his wealth, he had decided to eliminate his wife. Additionally, the police discovered that Zhao Nuo had a questionable connection to an adult massage parlor on Beaufort Street. He was a frequent visitor and had a close relationship with the parlor's owner, raising suspicions that he might be involved in the establishment's illicit activities. However, the owner insisted they were merely friends and had no business dealings together. Regardless of whether Zhao Nuo was tied to illegal operations, the police couldn't rule out the possibility that he was the mastermind behind the murder. The greatest challenge now was to either dismantle Zhao Nuo's alibi or track down the direct perpetrator. The police meticulously reviewed surveillance footage from the area where the crime occurred. They managed to capture images of the 2 suspicious vehicles, but due to poor lighting conditions at night, the cameras only recorded the general shapes of the cars, unable to clearly identify the drivers' faces. From the footage, the white Mitsubishi had been spotted multiple times near the area in the days leading up to the murder, lingering there for over 2 hours on the night of the attack, as if waiting for Sundan to appear before striking. It was evident that this was a carefully orchestrated assassination. However, beyond the details of the 2 cars, the surveillance footage offered no further critical clues. Meanwhile, Sundan's mother remained in a deep coma, leaving the investigation at a dead end. The police decided to re-interview Zhao Nuo's mother, Song Tia-pei, in hopes of gleaning more information. But to their surprise, on October 11, 2010, she had secretly taken Chi-Chi back to China, severing all contact with the authorities. With no other options, the police released the surveillance footage to the public, hoping that someone might provide a lead. The strategy quickly paid off. A citizen recognized the silver Mercedes in the video as a 2003 Mercedes CLK 500, a rare model with only 20 such cars registered in Western Australia. After tracing the vehicle, the police confirmed that the car in the surveillance footage belonged to Zhao Nuo. They immediately seized the vehicle, but this did not yield any significant breakthroughs in the case. At this point, the Perth police found themselves in a dilemma. They knew Zhao Nuo was the prime suspect, but he had fled to China, making it impossible to summon him for questioning. Moreover, his seemingly irrefutable alibi prevented the police from obtaining an arrest warrant or requesting assistance from Chinese authorities to apprehend him. During the subsequent investigation, the Perth police finally managed to contact Zhao Nuo. However, he adamantly denied all allegations, boldly declaring, "I plan to settle permanently in China and have no intention of returning to Australia." This statement pushed the case into a dead end. Unable to pursue further investigation against Zhao Nuo directly, the police shifted their focus to the mysterious white Mitsubishi seen at the crime scene and the elusive killer. After conducting a wide-scale search, the police found no white Mitsubishi in the area linked to the crime. This led to a bold hypothesis. The perpetrator might have come from a distant location and the car might not be local. As previously mentioned, Perth is an isolated city with the nearest major urban centers thousands of kilometers away. If Zhao Nuo had hired an assassin from another city, instructing them to drive thousands of kilometers to Perth to kill Sundan and then leave immediately, it would indeed be a chillingly perfect plan. Following this lead, the police uncovered a critical clue. On September 24th, Zhao Nuo had placed an ad in a Chinese-language newspaper in Sydney, seeking a driver for a long-distance trip from Sydney to Perth. This detail was highly suspicious. Hadn't Zhao Nuo left Australia for China on September 11th? If so, why was he hiring a driver on September 24th? Furthermore, the murder took place on September 30th, just 6 days later. The police decided to investigate the route from Sydney to Perth, a journey spanning over 3,900 kilometers. This route cuts through vast deserts and plains, making it one of the most desolate stretches in Australia. One particular section passes through the Nullarbor Plain, often called the treeless land due to its stark, barren landscape. It was here that an unexpected breakthrough emerged. A highway patrol officer named Robert recalled that on the night of September 30th, while patrolling the Nullarbor Highway, he had pulled over a white car. What struck him as odd was that just a few days earlier, the same car had been traveling toward Perth, and now it was heading back in the opposite direction. Robert found this highly unusual, as driving on this route is far from easy. He had taken photos of the two men in the car and noted the encounter in his routine patrol report. He later forgot about the incident until the Perth police reached out for assistance in their investigation. The moment the police received the photo, the veil of mystery was lifted, because in the image, the man in the passenger seat was none other than Zhao Nuo. This confirmed the police's theory. Zhao Nuo had deliberately created a false alibi by leaving Australia for China on September 11th, but he had secretly returned to Sydney, hired a driver to travel to Perth on September 24th, and hidden at his mother's house for a few days to prepare the murder weapons. He then carried out the killing of Sundan on September 30th before fleeing Perth that same night, returning to Sydney and flying back to China. At this point, the police were no longer concerned with how he had re-entered Australia, as there were two likely possibilities. Either he used a fake passport or he had entered illegally. Armed with irrefutable photographic evidence, the police quickly obtained a warrant to search Zhao Nuo's home. They discovered that on his laptop, his gaming account had logged in on September 29th and 30th. Even more damning, the laptop's webcam had captured footage of Zhao Nuo sitting in front of the computer in the early hours of September 29th. This proved that he was hiding in his mother's house at the time. Consequently, his mother's claim that she hadn't seen her son since he returned to China was a blatant lie. The police continued to trace airport records in Sydney to determine how Zhao Nuo had illegally re-entered Australia. After a meticulous review, they confirmed that he had used the passport of a friend surnamed Yu, who had been a groomsman at his wedding. Due to their similar facial features and Zhao Nuo's use of a disguise, he had easily slipped past immigration officials. With this solid evidence in hand, the Perth police collaborated with Chinese authorities to arrest Zhao Nuo. Prior to this, without compelling evidence, Zhao Nuo had been living freely in China beyond the reach of the law. The Chinese police had no record of his crimes, so they couldn't detain him. It was only after his illegal entry using a fake passport was uncovered that they were able to hold him temporarily and launch an investigation. In May 2014, after receiving irrefutable evidence from the Australian police, Zhao Nuo was officially charged with the murder of his wife and the attempted murder of his mother-in-law. However, the trial process proved to be incredibly complex. The complication arose because Zhao Nuo held Australian citizenship while Sundan was a Chinese citizen. This created a rare legal situation. An Australian citizen had killed a Chinese citizen on Australian soil. Although China and Australia had signed an extradition treaty in 2007, Australia had never ratified it. As a result, there was no legal basis to extradite Zhao Nuo back to Australia for trial. The Australian government hoped China would extradite him, But under Chinese criminal law, if a foreigner commits a serious crime outside China and the victim is a Chinese citizen, China has the right to prosecute the case. Australia initially opposed this decision as the country had abolished the death penalty long ago and consistently advocated for other nations to do the same. They were concerned that if Zhao Nuo were tried in China, he might face the death penalty. After several tense rounds of diplomatic negotiations, the two countries reached a landmark agreement. No matter how heinous Zhao Nuo's crimes, he would not face the death penalty. In May 2014, the Shanghai No. 1 Intermediate People's Court opened the trial of Zhao Nuo. With irrefutable evidence provided by Australian authorities and the thorough investigation conducted by Chinese police, Zhao Nuo was found guilty of murder and sentenced to life imprisonment under Chinese law. Curiously, however, this verdict was not publicly announced until 2016. Regarding the motive, the judge concluded that Zhao Nuo, unwilling to accept the divorce and fearful of losing his vast fortune in custody of his daughter, had orchestrated the murder of his wife. The case unfolded at a time when China and Australia had not yet formalized an extradition treaty, but the two nations collaborated closely to successfully resolve the case. This marked not only a breakthrough in judicial cooperation between the two countries, but also provided valuable experience in investigating and handling transnational crimes. On September 23, 2016, nearly 6 years after Sun Dan's murder, an unexpected twist unfolded at Perth Airport. Song Taipei, Zhao Nuo's mother, was arrested by Australian police the moment she stepped off the plane. Although the primary perpetrator had already faced justice, Song Taipei was suspected of providing false testimony during the investigation. She had previously claimed to the police with unwavering confidence that her son had returned to China and never came back to Australia. In reality, Zhao Nuo had secretly re-entered the country using a fake passport, hiding in their Perth home for days before killing Sun Dan. Song Taipei clearly knew the truth. Beyond giving false testimony, Australian police also accused her of being an accomplice in Sun Dan's murder. Facing these serious charges, Song Taipei vehemently denied any involvement, asserting that she had no part in her son's crime. Her defense lawyer argued that if Zhao Nuo had gone to such lengths to conceal his identity and re-enter Australia secretly, it would be illogical for him to inform his family in Perth before committing the murder. However, the trial proceedings for Song Taipei later faded into obscurity, and her final verdict remains a mystery. Many questioned why she would risk returning to Australia after so many years. One theory emerged. She may have intended to secretly take her granddaughter, Chi-Chi, out of Australia. After the case concluded, Chi-Chi, an Australian citizen, was brought back to Australia by the government and placed in the care of the Department of Social Welfare. If Song Taipei had indeed returned to Australia to take Chi-Chi away, she had been gravely naive. She might have assumed the case had faded into obscurity and that the police were no longer watching her. But she was apprehended the moment she landed. After some time under the care of the Department of Social Welfare, Chi-Chi found a new home with a compassionate couple. It's said that this couple occasionally takes Chi-Chi to China to visit her maternal grandparents. As for Zhao Nuo's vast fortune in Australia, what happened to it after he was sentenced to life in prison? The answer is straightforward. Since Chi-Chi is his legal heir, Zhao Nuo's assets naturally passed to her. The Australian government auctioned off a portion of his estate, establishing a trust fund to secure Chi-Chi's future. Tragically, Sun Dan's mother, Kong Jessen, despite undergoing extensive and costly treatments, never recovered. She remains permanently disabled, unable to care for herself. Reflecting on this case, Zhao Nuo had deluded himself into believing he had devised a perfect plan to escape justice after committing his crime. But he overlooked one crucial truth. No matter how meticulously planned, there's always a flaw. As the saying goes, the net of justice may be wide, but it never lets the guilty slip through. The law always finds a way to bring perpetrators to account. This case exposed gaps in judicial cooperation between the two countries. Will Australia reconsider its stance on extraditing criminals to China following this incident? And despite being adopted by a kind Australian family and having a trust fund for her future, will Chi-Chi be able to overcome this trauma and lead a normal life? falls and the night deepens. Thank you for being here with me at Radio Night Crime. True crime stories remind us of life's mysteries and the need to stay aware, even in the stillness of the night. If you enjoyed tonight's story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Let the sound of the rain lull you to sleep, and until next time, stay safe, stay curious, and let the night keep you company.